you have to listen to your intuition when you get those things that call to you, and you have to have that self-care to keep that inner critic down, because that inner critic will come and like tell you like, oh no, you don't need to do this, or you can let it go, or this is stupid, you're going to fail. Like all of those things can like just start jumping on you, right?
Absolutely. And I have this analogy, but in my first book, on the happiness book, I talk about the inner critic and how damaging the inner critic can be. And I ask people to say, imagine, whether it's God, the universe, or somebody handed you the keys to your favorite car. The car basically symbolizes your life. You only get one car, so drive it well, take care of it. And when we begin, we're in the driver's seat. But as the inner critic begins, and usually happens, in our early years, developmental years, teenage years, and then it goes on, takes over the car, it starts driving our own car. Now we're in the passenger seat. And if the inner critic continues to pound on us, now we're in the back seat. And if the inner critic is really negative and detrimental, we might find ourselves in the trunk.
Yeah.
And our life basically. So I ask people when I said, where do you think you are right now? Some people say, like on a scale of 1 to 100, how much, what percentage you're. I had one guy said 97%. I'm like, not only are you in the trunk, you're like tied up and like you can, blindfolded, like your whole life is out of control.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is, we need to confront the inner critic. So I'm like, if you're in the trunk, let's at least get in the back seat. At least you can see, even though you're not driving the car, at least you have some idea. And if you're in the back seat, let's move you to the passenger seat. So at least you're closer. And at some point, you have to take over and regain control of your destiny. And people say, well, how do I do that? I mean, I like the visual. I can visualize. Like, I mean, a lot of people said I'm in the back seat. Most times people say I'm in the back seat. If you have said I'm in the passenger seat, yes, my life is, I'm trying to control the inner critic back and forth. I'm like, this is how you do it. Every time you hear this negative critical voice in your head, I want you to imagine that you're a judge dressed in a black robe with a gavel. And every time you hear the inner critic, you use the gavel to say overruled. For example, you're stupid, overruled. You're an idiot, overruled. You can't do that, overruled. You can't have overruled. The more time you overrule that voice, you gain control back of your destiny. And at some point, you cross over to the 50%. So it could be 51% you and 49% inner critic. And now there's this battle, right? Back and forth. But at least your hands are on the wheel. And the more you continue to do that, then now the inner critic goes in the back seat.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I like how that whole idea of the judge, that's like a fun one. And like it is actually a fun way to like note your like inner critic and everything. Cause like
Right.
I come from like a meditation background. So we have an exercise in meditation where it's like kind of what you're saying, it's noting. So when a thought or that inner critic comes up, just give it a label, right? Then like,
Right.
and this is how you go from being completely identified with your thoughts or your inner critic, like that maybe be you being in the trunk or being in the
Right.
back seat, and this is how you go to like slowly coming back and taking over the wheel.